All right, good evening. I will call the council meeting of City of Beaumont City Council, additional meeting for Tuesday, October 25th to order here at 6 p.m. As always, we begin our meetings with our land acknowledgement, which I'll read now. We are pleased to be here today on traditional territory of Treaty 6 and the Métis homeland. We acknowledge all those who have shared deep connection with this land. The City of Beaumont respects the histories, languages, and cultures of all of Canada's First Peoples, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich Canada's vibrant communities. We're all treaty people. Peace treaties bind us all. Next, we have our proclamations. I have a couple to read this evening. Family Violence Prevention Month, November. Whereas there are many people in Alberta who experience family violence, and whereas the effects of family violence may be carried on from generation to generation, and whereas all Albertans have a role to play in preventing family violence, and whereas the City of Beaumont Family and Community Support Services works to prevent family violence through education and awareness, and whereas the City of Beaumont City Council calls upon the citizens of Beaumont to reach out, speak out against family violence, and to make a difference by creating a culture of support those affected by family violence. And whereas City of Beaumont City Council calls upon all Albertans to make our province violence-free in 2020 and beyond. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Bill Dowling, do hereby proclaim November 2022 as Family Violence Prevention Month, in the City of Beaumont, dated October 25th, 2022. World Town Planning Day, November 8th, 2022. Whereas since its inception in 1949, World Town Planning Day is celebrated in more than 30 countries around the world. And whereas World Town Planning Day highlights the valuable contributions that sound planning makes to the quality of our communities, and whereas Beaumont's vision to be a vibrant, inclusive, livable, and sustainable community requires deliberate, wise, and strategic planning decisions, and whereas World Town Planning Day also serves as a reminder of the importance for all citizens to engage in building stronger, smarter communities, and whereas the City of Beaumont recognizes the valuable contributions of urban planners in planning and development and the commitment to our community. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Bill Dowling, do hereby proclaim November 8th, 2022 as World Town Planning Day in the City of Beaumont, Alberta, pardon me, dated 25th of October, 2022. Those are our two proclamations this evening. And before we go on to the adoption of the agenda, I will like to make a short announcement that as council may be aware, administration, we were sworn in as a city council 1 year ago today. It's been a very fast first year. We made it through our first year. So congratulations, council, being elected and surviving your first year on council. And we only have 3 more to go. So with that, I'll simply say good on you, and we'll see you in 3 years, a year from now, our next anniversary. But in the meantime, we have 3 more years in our mandate. I'm looking forward to that 3 years working with you, administration, make the next 3 years as successful as I feel our first year was on council. So thank you for that. With that, next on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Administration, are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Mayor. Administration has one amendment to the agenda. Item 9A, Bylaw 1024-22, the Community Standards Bylaw. The Schedule 2 Bylaw 1024-22 was replaced and was new schedule was has been circulated and they republished on the website.
Okay, thank you. No further changes, just that one. Thank you. Remember, council willing to move the adopted agenda as presented. Councillor Miller.
Sure. I move that the October 25th, 2022 council agenda be adopted as amended.
Thank you, councillor. I will ask council to vote on the amended agenda. Please vote. That carries unanimously. Thank you, council. Next on our agenda is a consent agenda, and there are 5 items on consent agenda. Could they be placed on the screen, please? Consent agenda is as follows at 4A, 4B, 6A, 8B, and 13A be proposed on the consent agenda for this evening. Is there a member of council willing to move consent agenda as presented? Councilor Swain.
Yeah, sorry, I just, can we pull off the 4B there, please?
4B?
Yeah.
Okay. 4B will take it off the consent agenda.
It'll be quick, apologies, but then I can move that council consent to approve the following agenda items without debate.
Yes, thank you. So 4A, 6A.
4A, 6A, 8B, and 13A.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Council, seeing no discussion, I'll ask you to vote. That carries unanimously on the revised consent agenda. Thank you, council. So first on our agenda then is 4B, 2023-2024, appointment of councillors to boards and committees. The report will be presented by, I believe, Ms. Bujaya or Ms. Winter. Thank you. No problem. Ms. Winter,
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome.
Sorry, multitasking over here.
That's okay. So was I.
This evening, you have in front of you the council organizational meeting for October 25th, 2022, the appointment of councillors to boards and committees. Each year, council appoints councillors to several boards and committees for the one-year terms following the municipal election. The mayor has spoken with councillors and preferences of appointments have been populated into the attachment, and administration is here to answer any questions or concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Winter. With that, I'll open up to council to discuss item 4B. Councilman Swain, do you wish to begin the conversation?
Just very briefly, and apologies for this. I know we've got guests waiting here. The youth council, it was my understanding that Councillor Miller wanted to be the committee member and that I would be the alternate. And so what I'm looking at here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I see it here as me listed as the committee member and Councillor Miller as the alternate. I thought we'd wanted to switch that around. Is that right?
I'll speak to that if you like. Yeah, we had a conversation the last couple of days, Councilman and myself, and we're going to leave things this year as it is.
Good.
For the next 1 year, and we will do a shakeup at the 2-year point of our term to get some councillors on other committees to get some exposure to different things. So we will be doing a rather significant change at the 2-year point of our term, just so you know that. I thought I mentioned it to you and I hadn't. We had a conversation to keep things as they were, so.
Yep, sorry, then I'm good. I just wanted to make sure. I know you'd express an interest in it and you'll probably be there anyway, but I just wanted to make sure it's right. So I'm good with that.
No, thank you for clarifying. I should have been more on the ball with that one, but away a couple of days unexpectedly. So thank you for clarifying that. Councilman Swain. So having said that, any further discussion on 4B, which I'm assuming we're okay to go ahead. So is there a member of council willing to move the adoption of 4B as information?
I can do that, seeing as I created the
Councilman
issue.
Swain, sure.
And I will read it into the record here for Ms. Bujaya.
Thank you.
I'll move that the council appointments to boards and committees as set out in attachment 1 of the October 25th, 2022 Legal and Legislative Services Report be approved for the terms set out therein, provided that the appointees continue to serve as councillors throughout the term of their appointment.
Thank you. Council discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask you to vote on the motion on the screen. Let's carry unanimously. Thank you, council. Appreciate that. Next on our agenda is 5, open forum. Ms. Winter, do we have anybody for open forum this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. We do have one presentation this morning. It's the first Poppy presentation. We have the Legion here and the RCMP to do that. So Mr. Brzezowski will be here to take a picture of the first Poppy.
Okay, so we're doing that now as our registered presentations later on the agenda. We're
Oh,
doing
my
it now.
apologies. There are no open forum presentations this evening, Mayor.
So I was on the right track there.
You were, thank you, Mayor.
There you
You
go. Look
were
at that.
on the
One year
right
on the
track,
job and I got it
and
right.
the clerk
Look
is
at that.
not.
Okay, so no open forum.
Correct.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mayor.
So seeing on number 6 was on consent agenda. Number 7, registered presentations. I believe we have Mr. Kevin Crone from Legion. Oh, Linda, I didn't see you come in. Sorry, you snuck in on me there. Apologize. So we're going to do the first Poppy presentation for the 2022 Remembrance Day Poppy campaign. So great. Let's get that done. Looking forward to this.
This is a photo op. Hockey day is the first day is Friday. So let me put this Friday. Last Friday we did under the block. This. Yeah, we're gonna be able to do a photos, make sure everybody looks good.
So don't put it on this yet. I want to get her. I need to see one.
You want some front of the table or?
Actually, can I get you with the flag in the back? Sure. I'll just, yeah, let me just figure out what it all looks like.
Bye, everybody.
I won't be able to get everybody from the council.
This is where you don't stay. Once that's good. Very severe to you. You want to get all this together? Right there.
I just need some more here.
Come on, guys. That's what I'm saying. I'll just make sure. Yeah, this is one of them, yeah.
Everybody ready? Okay. Thank you very much.
My name is both the veterans within our local area. So we will appreciate, yes, we have a coffee fund centered in the East Pirate Square. It's pretty involved, and so we want to make sure that we always recognize veterans are important, and I think that we can board just as well. Thank you very much.
All weekend. Thanks for being here. After those times. Well, it's supposed to be next time, so. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you very much for going. Good evening.
Thanks, Kevin. All right. That's been a year already since the last one. I think it's supposed to be Friday, yeah. Is the official day to wear them. Yes. No, what do you need?
You have an open education, because we are after Remembrance Day for us, coming to you at the LRC. I know that Beaumont is also. We're also having a function, that we'll have the new fire department, we'll be at Blackjack's.
Okay.
That evening, more or less starting just after 1300, and we'll do more. So everybody gets an invitation. You want to pay for it, but
that'd be great.
100 hours, and the pipes and drums will be playing, and then we'll also do a few more presentations. Parents, I can So we'll be there if anybody wishes to stop in. It's
Great.
always a good time. Been there a few times.
Good. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, moving right along in our agenda. Let's see here. Next, I believe, is 8A, Community Grant Program, October 2022 intake, funding recommendations. Let me get your mic on there. There we are. Perfect. All right. Please identify yourselves for council's benefit and my lack of memory sometimes, and listen people at home choose to know who's speaking from administration and the committee, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Joanna Mancher. I'm here as Team Lead Arts and Events with the City of Beaumont.
And my name is Julian Winters. I'm part of the volunteer on the funding committee.
Thank you for having us here tonight. Tonight, the report being presented seeks council approval for the recommended funding allocations for the community grant program submitted for the October 2022 intake. This is the second intake of the year. The purpose of the community grant program is to fund one-time projects and initiatives, operating expenses, events primarily designed and delivered to the general public that attract visitors, significantly contribute to the economy, and promote volunteerism. The Grant Funding Advisory Committee, of which Julian Winters is the co-chair, their purpose is to review and rank applications using predetermined criteria and make recommendations to council in regards to awarding the funding. For the October intake, we received 11 applications from various organizations within Beaumont for a total requested funds of $94,000. Of these applications, 3 were screened and did not meet eligibility requirements, and 1 applicant withdrew their application before the review took place. The community grant program was allocated $70,000 through the approved 2022 budget. For the first intake, $24,500 was approved, and the recommended allocations for the October 22 intake listed above will use the full allocation of $70,000. The community grant program was advertised on our website through social media channels, through a variety of screens, direct emails, as well as advertising in the Beaumont newspaper. We also hosted a grant writing workshop prior to the application deadline, and we had a lot of wonderful applications, and I'll have Julian speak to the recommendations.
So just starting going down the list, the very first one was an outdoor gathering space for the Champ Ballet Fundraising Society. They requested $10,000 and the committee recommends $10,000 to be awarded to them. The Drive Happiness Senior Association for Senior Assisted Transportation request $6,000 and sorry. Excellent. So the Drive Happiness Seniors Association for their project of seniors assisted transportation requested $6,000 and we are recommending $1,500 be awarded to them from the grant funding. Then the Beaumont Senior High School Bandits Football Club were looking for improvements for jerseys and helmets and requested $10,000 and we're recommending $7,000. The Beaumont Nisku Christmas Elves for their 2022 Christmas hamper campaign have requested $10,000 and the committee recommends awarding $10,000. The Beaumont Skating Club for their year-round skating program expansion has requested $10,000. We've also recommended awarding them the full $10,000. The Beaumont Composite High School Parent Advisory Association for ESBCHS 2023 commencement ceremony informal has requested $10,000 and we're recommending $5,000 be awarded. And the Beaumont Ring Association for the Brass Ring Tournament, which I believe just occurred, is requesting $5,000 and we're recommending $2,000 be awarded for a total of $45,500. Sorry.
And we're available for questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council for our presenter this evening on the community grant program? Starting with Councillor Barnhart, followed by Councillor Miller. Kathy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much. I really do appreciate how difficult it is to make these recommendations and the amount of time and effort that it takes. One observation that jumps out at me, and I appreciate that may not be able to give us very much detail on that, but there's one application here, it looks like, for our older residents in the community, and a lot of the others are, I would gather, except for the Christmas Elves, of course, dealing with young families and children. And some got everything they asked for, and some got quite a bit less than they asked for. And I'm just wondering what, maybe from a criteria standpoint, or is there something, is there some reason why that's happening? Is there a priority given to youth, or is it just some explanation of that would be helpful to me?
So speaking for the discussion the committee had, it wasn't so much a priority given to youth or seniors. It was more the benefit the dollars were leveraging for the community as a whole, I think was given greater precedent. In our opinion, it seemed that some of the other applicants, the dollars would go farther from a cost benefit standpoint for the community rather than some of the other programs were scaled down to where we felt greater use of the dollars would occur.
I can also add that as part of the application process, applicants submit financial statements and a proposed budget for their specific project. So as part of the evaluation that's taken place is a review of the degree to which funding from this particular grant program is needed to support the overall project and initiative, as well as looking at the state that the organization is in otherwise financially and their capacity to fund this, their initiative with or without the grant.
Yes, please continue. Oh, hang on. There you go. Your mic's back
Yeah,
on.
I won't belabor it, but I just hope in the future, you know, with the grant applications that it may not be a numbers game when it comes down to the need. 25% of our population are young people, and I get that, but also there's an equity issue in terms of the older people needing help to stay in our community, because we want to have a community where there's that balance. So I'll just make that comment and leave it at that. But I appreciate the work that goes into this and how difficult that is. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Miller. Ashley, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really don't have anything else to add. Kathy covered it. I saw the just the difference in allocation for the Drive Happiness Association. So that was just a little bit of a flag for me. But if you can't elaborate, you know, further than what you have, then I'll take it for what it is. But yeah, I would like to see more support for us, you know, associations to do with our seniors in the future.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Miller. One point that I can add is that there is a approved evaluation matrix that the committee uses to review the applications. So what I can say is that all applications are reviewed independently as their own application, but also against the other applications as part of that pool of applications that come in. And I think we've mentioned this before, but we have seen quite a range in the sophistication of the applications that are coming in.
Mhm.
And you know, we've been looking to help with some awareness building, some education around what makes a strong application through our workshops and guidelines and tip sheets. And we welcome, from an administrative standpoint, we'd welcome all inquiries, especially well in advance of the application deadline. We definitely want to assist groups to make a best application put forward as possible.
Just one more question, Mayor,
Please.
if I will. Once they have been allocated these amounts or approved for these amounts, is that relayed to them? And then when you say, you know, there's extra awareness around the application process, like are they given kind of some feedback on how to improve their application for the next go around? And how does that look? Oh, sorry. And I'll just add to that. Do they have chances to possibly appeal this amount that they've been allocated?
Through your worship, to Councillor Miller. Currently, the way the policy is written is that the decisions made this evening by council are not appealable. Council does have final decision as to the amounts given out. And in terms of the way the process works at this point, feedback is generally given upon request, and we're definitely looking to make improvements, and we'll take that into consideration about how we can formalize our feedback mechanism to all applicants, successful or not.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCook. Kat, you have the floor.
Thank you. And thank you to Councillor Barnhart and Miller for bringing that up. I had a similar question. So in regards to the grant writing workshop, did you see many of the applicants participate in it?
Through your worship, to Councillor McCook. We had limited live participation, but I would say that there was good statistics on the number of views from the video posted to the city YouTube page.
Okay.
I think the last time I'd looked, there had been about 45 views of the workshop. So at this point, we're not sure if those are repeated views or unique views, but for having that online, I think that was a good uptake.
Okay, and is that something that we're looking to kind of, is it ongoing on the website, or are we going to re-promote it, or?
Currently, the website still has all of the information available, as well as the slide deck from the presentation. And folks are encouraged to contact the grant program at any point during the year. And we can certainly look to increase exposure to the tips and resources available to groups throughout the year.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that might be beneficial. Just, and you said there was a little bit of a discrepancy in the quality of some of the applications, so it might be beneficial for applicants just to know that that resource is available to them before they apply. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate that. Are there any further questions from council for our presenter this evening on the community grant program? Seeing none, is there a member of council willing to move? Oh, sorry, Councillor Miller. Ashley, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion on this. I just don't, we're just drafting it up right now. So just a minute here.
Okay. Ms. Bujaya or Ms. Winter? Ms. Bujaya?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Miller, if you could give us some direction, is there a particular allocation that you would like to amend? Is my understanding? And we can certainly get that drafted.
Yeah. So did you want me to?
Whichever is easier. You could just tell us
Okay.
and we can drop that.
So I'd like to amend the allocation. Do I tell you the amounts?
Yes, and the specific allocation, is it for one specific?
Yes, it's for Drive Happiness Seniors Association.
All right, thank you. Councilor Miller, if you can tell me which one you would like to pull from, and then to the Drive Happiness. So if you can tell me where you would like that one to come from.
Okay. I was going to do the skating club.
Just wait for a moment while I get that motion up on the screen. Then what we'll do is we'll ask Councilor to make her motion, then we'll discuss the motion accordingly, and then we'll ask for council to vote on the motion.
Sorry, we're doing that. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's what I
Hey,
thought.
Curtis
They
on
were,
the line?
that's what I thought they were going to ask me to do is the math. I'm like, don't ask me to do that.
The Jeopardy music? Maybe some Guns N' Roses, maybe liven things up a little bit. Welcome to the jungle, I was thinking, actually.
But I think it makes the most logical sense. I'll explain. I know.
So Councilor Miller, we'll ask you to make your motion.
Yep.
I'll ask you to speak to it.
Yep.
Then we'll ask council to weigh in with their comments, concerns, or observations, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay. Go. Is that the motion on the bottom of the screen? Oh, Ms. Winter, you have more now?
Thank you, Mayor. So we are doing an amending motion on the main motion. So I do have this here at the bottom for what Councillor Miller is wishing to accomplish.
Okay. Councilor, would you please make the motion and speak to it?
Sure. I am moving that the Beaumont Skating Club allocation in the amount of $10,000 be changed to $8,500 and that the allocation for Drive Happiness Seniors Association be amended to $3,000.
Thank you. Please speak to your motion, and I'll go to council after that.
Okay, I was just going to add to $3,000 from $1,500 to make it a little more clear. That's okay. So, yeah, when I did the, the quick math here, Drive Happiness is essentially receiving 25% of what they've asked for. And I do see a need for the seniors in our city at this time. All of these organizations are great organizations and they all deserve and need these funds. I just would like to see these allocated a little differently. I don't think it's a huge move. It's $1,500. I would like to see them at least receive at least 50% of their ask. So that is the explanation on the fly here.
Thank you, Councilor. I will go to Councilor Ross-Swain first for speaking.
Okay.
Sorry. Comments, then Councilor Newberg. Sam, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks. First, just a big thank you for all the work that you do to put into this, recognize that this is your time and you're doing this out of the goodness of your community spirit, so thank you. I'm going to speak against this motion for a couple of things, and I want to make sure I phrase this appropriately. This is definitely not a shot at the motion or the organization that deservedly is looking for funding. Where I'm coming from with this is just more around the process that the Grant Funding Advisory Committee, in my view of council here, is to set up kind of the framework, the structure for that. And then, I trust the Grant Funding Advisory Committee to go through, look at that, and then make those decisions. I don't like us at council, after you've done all the hard work and us coming up here and making changing that decision. I recognize that that's part of the process. I just don't agree with it. I think you guys have put the time and you've looked at the applications, you've gone through them. So my nod, and this has come up a few times, and every time I've voted against the change because I just want to make sure that the Grant Funding Advisory Committee sees that I personally appreciate all the work that they're doing, and they're the ones who have actually spent the time looking at it. So for that reason, I'll be voting against it, and I encourage my fellow councillors to do the same. So I'll leave it there, but totally recognize what we're trying to do here, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll go to Councilman Newkirk, followed by Councilor Barnhart. Steve, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Last term, I was happy to be part of putting this whole program in place. And if we went back and reviewed the tape, I'm going to remain consistent here myself. And the consistency for me is around the appreciation for the group doing the work that they do, reviewing all of the submissions side by side. We don't have the leisure here of checking out these applications for completeness, for sophistication. We have seen a summary that has come to us in the past around an update of which groups have got what. That's not in front of me tonight. I don't recall if Drive Happiness has got a grant before or not, but that's here nor there for me. I'm going to remain consistent in empowering the group to do the work. The volunteerism is appreciated, And I will continue to do that so long as I'm sitting here and this program is together. So I'll be voting against this motion and I'll remain consistent on this throughout my terms. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I appreciate that. Councillor Barnard, followed by Councillor McCook. Kathy,
Thank-
you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to speak first of all to the point about empowering advisory committees. I believe in it wholeheartedly, but I also do believe that council has responsibility. And if we see something that we think could be a little bit better, tweaked a bit, which I think this essentially helps to reach a little more equity in what I noticed when I first looked at it. And I think it's really telling that we didn't get together before this and kind of talk about it. It came up as we read the report and kind of basically looking at it from the perspective of it seems a little out of balance. And there may be good reasons for that. I think what I heard your explanation is how you saw it. I think I see it differently, but we don't have the criteria in front of you that you were looking at. I do appreciate both Councillor Van Nieuwkerk and Councillor Malkoff-Swain saying we trust the process, but I can almost bet you that if there was something seriously jumping out at them, they might look at that process and say, well, this is an opportunity we can't let go by without saying something. So essentially, I think that's what Councillor Miller has done. That's myself. I've done, and Councillor McCook has mentioned it as well. So, whether the vote passes or not to change it, I don't want you to see that as a lack of confidence in the process. I still believe in the process, but I also believe that we're a check and balance in that process. And I don't think there's anything wrong with council doing that. You shouldn't look at it from the perspective of we don't trust you. We have ultimate confidence in you, but we might see things differently. And that's why, more heads make different decisions because we see things a little bit differently. So I am going to be voting in favor of the change. And again, for the reasons that have been stated, I think there needs to be a little more equity in terms of who is benefiting from the decision. So that's the reason for that. And thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCook. Kat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this one is is tough. Well, I recognize the equity piece, and I appreciate Councillor Miller bringing this forward. The thing that I struggle with is that we just haven't seen everything, and we have trusted in the committee to put that forward. And I think you've received our feedback and you've heard that equity piece and what we would like to see moving forward as you take in the next grant applications. So that's probably where I stand on that. I understand it and I understand where you're coming from on it. I'm just not sure that I'm there because I do want to trust the process, and because we don't have access to the applications themselves, I trust that there was hopefully a reason for this allocation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tessier, you have the floor before I have my final comment, and we'll go to a vote.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for Councillor Miller bringing this forward. It's whichever way it goes, it's a good conversation to see how this all works. I have a tough time voting on something when I don't know the data behind it. Like they're asking for $6,000 or they're asking for 20,000. It's really hard for me to vote on if they really needed it or what they needed, if the skating club needed it more. Again, I don't know where I sit. I see 100% of both sides, and without me seeing the actual data, it's really hard to vote for it. So I gotta think about it a little bit more, but I appreciate the conversation.
Well, I'll talk a minute, and I'll give you a minute to make up your mind. I'll talk a minute or so, and then we'll go to a vote. So you got about a minute. Thank you very much, and I appreciate Councillor's comments. A couple things before I move forward. Council does have final say, as you're very much aware. We do appreciate the work of the committee. It's valuable. It's based on our own policies. So it is council's job to oversee, and it's council's job to question. Doesn't mean there's any disrespect meant to the committee, but it's council's job to do that. However, having said that, I do believe eventually council may make a decision in the future, but I'm not support this motion because I don't see it being enough of a disparity that concerns me. Drive Happiness is a great program. I'm a big fan of their work in our community, other groups as well too. But personally, I won't simply just trust the process. I will take it case by case every 6 months. I don't think this situation warrants any kind of a reallocation of the monies. And a future situation might arise where I feel differently on a certain situation, but right now, given the circumstances in front of me and the work done by the committee, I will not be supporting the motion. So having said that, I'm going to ask Councillor Miller for one final say. It is your motion. I'll give you the courtesy of a final say. Councillor Tessier, you have something else you want to say? Well, hang on. Okay, so before I go to Councillor Miller for a final say, I'll give you a very brief comment. Very brief comment, Councillor Tessier.
Okay, so just so I understand, like, the committee cannot tell us what they asked for and what they're being approved for. Is that correct?
No. The groups asked for 10,000 and were given 10 or less amount based on the graph. Is that what you meant to ask?
I'm just asking, are we not allowed to understand what the ask was? I understand the money, but what it's for. Like, what did they send the application in for $6,000? Was it for fuel? Was it for a car? Are we allowed to know that information or not? I guess that's a procedure question. Because to me, I'm like, I don't have any data. And if that's the case, then I can't vote on it because I trust your opinions in the group. But if you're going to give me the data, then maybe I might vote differently. I don't know.
Yeah, let me just, does administration wish to answer
And
that
then I
question
bet
first
you
before I go,
know what you're going to say.
or Joanne,
thank you, your worship. I have a thought.
please?
It is really challenging and we value the thought and consideration that every group put forward in their application. I would caution against going through the particulars of each application in this forum. I suspect that if council would like to become more aware, I would suggest going in camera based on FOIP and wanting to be, the committee takes everything into confidentiality and consideration of all of that. So out of respect for the information shared by each group, that would be my thoughts on that. I don't know.
Thank you. Before I go to Councilor McGough-Swain on that, you read my mind exactly. The committee is following the policies set by council and they're following it to their interpretation as best they possibly can. If council is requiring more information, we'll have to go into an in-camera session to answer those questions at a later time. It wouldn't be this evening. Now that may be a flaw in the system procedurally. I appreciate that, but that's how we're going to do it today. So we need to sort of take the information in front of us and make a decision based on the motion. Councillor Tessier?
No, I agree with that. And I appreciate that answer. And I'm pretty sure I know what Councillor Munkoff-Swain is going to say is he's going to say, why have the committee at all if we're just going to go through the whole thing? So thank you. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Munkoff-Swain, then I'll go to Councillor Miller for her final comments on her motion. Sam?
Yeah, why have the committee? No, just kidding. No, I did just a history lesson. We did go through when it was in front of us in the previous term, and it was 2 hours long because we went and dived into every little detail and completely undermined the role of the committee. So, yeah, we did have that approach, and thankfully, administration, to your point, changed it for a FOIP, but also for the fact that we take so long up here to go through that. So, just saying, we did try it the other way, and it did not work, in my opinion, anyway. So I'm glad this is where we are.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Councillor Barnhart, you want to sneak in a comment here? We're getting a little carried away here. Okay. 20 seconds, please. Thank you, Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you. Reading the room, I'm pretty sure the vote's going to fail, and that's okay, because that's how democracy works. But what I would like to just put out there for you to consider for the next time you bring forward, and for council's consideration, is a little more criteria as to why you went the particular way you did. Remind us of the criteria, because honestly, we just see numbers. We don't know what that, other than the grant criteria. But in terms of this specific round, it would help if we knew what, specific issues might have been raised and what we could do to improve the process, those kinds of things. So a little more data would help us to understand why you made the decisions you made. And I don't like to do micromanaging at all. But I do feel this one just doesn't look right, but I also don't think it's fair to just take money away from the Beaumont Skating Club without knowing what that does to them. So I'm sure this is going to fail now because I think she just lost out the vote, but she may be withdrawing it, but I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Miller, final comments.
All right. So reading the room, I am going to withdraw this motion. But I still maintain the thoughts of the rest of some of my fellow counselors that it would be easier to make these decisions if we just had a little more eyes on the criteria, especially for some of us new counselors on how these are allocated. I don't like the comments around, trusting the process. I really hope that doesn't insinuate that I do not trust the process. 100%, you guys have a role, and you do the work, and we appreciate that by all means. So I will withdraw this motion because I think it's pretty clear that it will not go forward. But and I thank you for your presentation and for all of the feedback you've given us thus far.
Thank you, Councillor. And I think it's fair to emphasize the fact that if a councillor said trust the process, does not mean anybody who questions it does not trust the process. Let's be clear on that. Councilor is doing her role as a council member, and you're doing your role as a committee member. And with that, the motion has been withdrawn. I'm going to ask for a member of council to make a motion to accept this report and the recommendations contained within as information. Is there a member of council willing to make that motion when it appears on the screen? Oh, Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion would actually be to approve it as on this chart, not to accept his information.
My mistake. Thank you for clarifying that. So it'll be the motion to adopt as recommended on the screen. There's a motion to your read. Who's going to make that motion? Councillor Miller.
Well, I might as well make that. I move, I'm sorry, that the allocations to the October 2022 community grants be approved as follows.
There's no need to read them. I don't think it's on the screen.
Shall I read
Do we
each
need to
one?
read them?
As displayed, okay. I move that the allocations for the October 2022 community grants be approved as presented on the screen.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank
Discussion
you.
on the motion? Seeing none, Council, would you please vote on the motion? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much for your presentation and good work at the committee level. And thank you for council for a good spirited debate, which is what we're here to do. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next on our agenda is 9A, Bylaw 1024-22 Community Standards Bylaw. Mr. Melvin, are you presenting this evening, I believe? You're not. I had my notes. Ms. Dargy. All right. Ms. Dargy, you now have the floor, please. I thought I had my notes right. You guys are.
You did
flipping
have your
around.
notes right. We
Okay.
switched it up.
All right. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you for consideration this evening is Bylaw 1024-22, the new Community Standards Bylaw. At the October 11th Council meeting, Council provided direction through several motions to make certain amendments to the draft bylaw before we brought it back for consideration. Those amendments have now been made to the bylaw. As the city clerk noted earlier, administration caught an error in Schedule A to the bylaw, and a revised Schedule A has been inserted into the agenda to ensure that the penalties reference the correct corresponding bylaw section number. At this time, administration feels that the bylaw is now in its final form and is ready for consideration for 3 readings by council. If you have any questions this evening, I'm happy to answer those questions, and Chief Melvin is here as well.
Melvin will answer questions, but not presenting, right? I got that straight. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Director Melvin. Appreciate that. And we'll begin with questions. I see Councillor Barnhart has questions first, followed by Councillor Tessier. So Kathy,
Thank you, Mayor.
You have the
And
floor.
just to clarify I think I've got this right. I hope I do. So we are amending, if this passes, the existing community standards bylaw, or is this the whole new one now?
Ms. Dargy, do you wish to speak? I see your mic going.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Barnhart. So there isn't a current community standards bylaw. The last page of the bylaw presented lists a number of bylaws that will be repealed. This bylaw gathers all of those into one new bylaw.
So it is all of the changes that were proposed.
That's correct.
If this passes 3rd reading, then we now have a community standards bylaw we didn't have before. And all of the things that we've debated in the last couple of meetings at COTW now will be passed.
That's correct.
And
They're
then
all,
there's
they're all
other
included.
work coming back around cannabis and public drinking in the parks.
That's right.
et cetera.
There were 2 motions, one to bring back some amendments, a report on amendments for the land use bylaw, and another one on the pilot program for drinking in public places.
Yeah, I just thought I heard you say something different than what I was thinking it was,
Oh.
but then, no, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tessier, you have the floor, followed by Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. Renee?
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to all the work of the team on this bylaw. It's massive and it's been asked for a while now, so it looks really good. And from all our discussions, I'm really happy with it. So just my comment. Looking forward to seeing it in use. And how are we looking at rolling it out in in educating the public? Do we have a decent plan for that? Just interested on how that'll look.
I'll let Chief Melvin take that up.
Hang on, Chief, I'll get your mic on here. That's you now. Yep.
Okay, through the mayor to Councillor Tessier, I was speaking with my colleague to my left prior to council meeting, and we'll be rolling out, since community standards bylaws is such a large document, we need to kind of break it into certain pieces, especially with the upcoming season. So we'll be rolling out a pretty aggressive plan to the residents through communications on how to get well versed in the bylaw in itself. So, and as always, if there's questions, we'll have the website updated along with other social media campaigns that will go out. So we anticipate that we're going to get lots of questions, but that's a good thing because that means the public's interested. So
Great, thanks so much. And for these bylaw complaints, we can go to the non-emergency line or even through the portal. Are those both options that'll be discussed? Is that something that we'll be looking at?
through the mayor to Councillor Tessier, obviously the non-emergency line for sure. We can try to deal with it that way. I'm not aware of the portal, but I'll have to get back to you on that. But anyway, where the resident would normally get a hold of city and have a concern or complaint, whether it be my office or the main office, we'll deal with it and make sure that we have available channels when we send out that messaging on how you get a hold of us if you do have a question on it. So
Perfect. Thanks so much. Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Newkirk, followed by Councillor Barnhart.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a clarifying question on page 42 of 59 in the cannabis product, specifically 63A and B. This continues down the question path around the nuisance odors from cannabis. The question is, does the verbiage in 63A and B empower our bylaw enforcement to take action where nuisance odors would exist? Is this sufficient to go and deal with that? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Darcy?
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Van Newkirk. Yes, so through consultation with external legal counsel, these clauses would allow us to address complaints of odor coming from cannabis production, storage, or anything like any products that are in a building. So that does apply to existing buildings.
There. Yeah, and big thank you for this and for finding some kind of a solution here that we can, that we can get down on paper and enforceable. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Before I go to Councillor Barnhart, I'm going to wait for the first round of questions, everybody, before I go to round two with yourself. You began this process. So anybody else for a first round of questions before I go to Councillor Barnhart for a second round? Seeing none, Kathy, you're on.
Chief Melville, I'm just wondering, I know last year when we first started this conversation, we were talking about mediation services that are available in Strathcona County for neighbors that are having difficulty, perhaps with neighbors who aren't complying with the bylaw, and we don't want to be constantly calling for enforcement when perhaps what they really need is somehow a mediated chat where they could sit down and talk it through. I'm just wondering if we still have that arrangement, and maybe that will be included in some of your communication when we go forward. I'm not sure whether you were here for that conversation. That was early days of this bylaw. Oh, Ms. Bujaya seems to know the answer to that question. Thank you.
Ms. Bujaya?
You to Councillor Barnhart. Thank you for raising that. That's a great point. That is the dispute resolution options that we looked at. You'll remember that council did direct administration by motion to do some work on that, and we are leveraging a partnership with Strathcona County to make those services available to our residents. So right now, administration is working internally to develop an internal communications plan as well as an external communications plan. And municipal enforcement is one of our key stakeholders. So we will make sure that all departments that frequently deal with people who are experiencing conflict or disputes with their neighbors are equipped with that information and those resources. We're anticipating to have that launched in the first quarter of 2023. That was part of the motion. So these two things will dovetail together eventually. They're two different tools.
Okay, I'm just thinking that the two are going to come to mind when the snow hits and people are, the one that I look at in particular on page 37, like the number 35, no person shall throw snow on someone else's property. That particular issue did come to our attention. So just want to make sure that we have the information ready for people when they are looking for it.
And we do have the contacts ready, and the information was shared with council, and we can always share it again if that's desired by council, because there's nothing to prevent one of our residents from accessing that service right now, even though we're doing the official launch next year.
That'd be helpful, especially with the season that is coming. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much for that. Appreciate all the work on it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCook. Kat?
Thank you. And to echo Councillor Tessier's points, the bylaw looks great and appreciate all the work that's gone into it. Something that just came up as I was reading through it again, in regards to boulevards, does this also cover if, for an example, if someone lives on a corner lot and they have like a strip of grass on the public side of their fence, is that still part of the boulevard piece, or do they have to keep that clean and tidy? Is that covered under this bylaw?
Ms. Dargy?
Thank you, Worship, through to Councillor McCook. I'm not sure offhand if that's covered in this bylaw. I do know it's covered under the land use bylaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Councillor. See no further questions? Council, just want to mention a lot of work into this piece of legislation, as well, a lot of work from council and administration with questions and scenarios and this sort of thing, and a lot of flexibility from council in terms of looking at different ways of doing things. So big thank you to administration putting this all together and streamlining our process for our residents to understand what bylaws pertain to what. So I appreciate all the work on this. And at this point, I'm going to ask for, are we doing first reading this evening? No, not, we're doing third reading this evening, right? Third reading, correct. We're doing all three tonight? That's what I thought. Give me 1 second to get my notes together here. I wrote down the wrong thing. I thought we had to just, yeah, it's my mistake on my notes here. So the recommendation in our packages that we give first reading. Remember, council need to give first reading to the bylaw. Councillor Tessier.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that bylaw 1024-22, a bylaw to establish a community standards bylaw, be given first reading.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion on the motion? Normally is not on first reading. So with that, I will request council to vote on the motion of first reading. That passed unanimously. Thank you, council. Remember, council will need to move second reading of the bylaw. Councillor McCook. Kat?
I move that bylaw 1024-22 be given second reading.
Thank you, councillor. Discussion on the motion, council. Seeing none, I will request that you vote on second reading. That also passes at this point unanimously. Thank you, council. We can move to third reading. Can we not, Ms. Bujaya, Ms. Winter?
Thank you, Mayor. We just need this next motion to give consideration for third reading. This will have to pass unanimously in order to go into third reading.
So we need consensus for third reading, correct? Not an actual vote, just consensus?
No, we need an actual motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a member of council willing to move consideration for third reading? Councillor Barnhart.
It seems to be scrolling up there. Yes, that the bylaw, I would move that bylaw 1024-22 be considered for third reading.
Thank you, councillor. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, council, would you please vote on consideration for third reading? That carries unanimously. Thank you, council. With that, we will move to third reading. Remember, council needing to move the bylaw be given third reading. Councilor Van Newkirk, Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that bylaw 1024-22 be given third reading. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, council asks you to vote on third reading of the community standards bylaw. Thank you unanimously. Thank you, council. Thank you, administration. Great work and a good piece of legislation for our residents. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda this evening is council inquiries that's been dealt with the Walkway lighting. Councillor Tessier receives his information back from that. At that point, move on to the CAO update. Oh, Ms. Winter, do you wish to speak? Oh, okay, thank you. CAO Schwartz.
Oh, thank you very much, Mayor, members of council, members of the public. A few items to update you on, some operational project items that we'll do here in a second, but I did want to acknowledge, yes.
Thank you, Mary. Just wanted to point out that you missed number 12, notices of motion on the agenda.
Oh, I have my hand on that. I thought it's, I got CAO update, then no solution.
Yeah, that's what I have too. Yeah, that's what I have too there.
12, notice of motion.
We're okay, Sean.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Again, just seeing if you're paying attention.
I didn't think so. Okay, we'll go back to CAO Schwartz.
This has been a night. This is crazy. Again, just wanted to acknowledge the Mayor's State of the Union last week. I thought that was very successful. A lot of people there from the region and other places, business community as well. And Colonial Golf Course did a fantastic job on the breakfast. I've got a few pictures that I'm going to throw here. A picture says 1,000 words. This is the current Bellevue outdoor rink construction. It's scheduled for completion for the upcoming skating season, and that will include boards. They're in place, as you'll see. The netting is going up right away. The grading will be completed. There'll be overhead lighting, and the landscaping efforts will continue as long as the weather lasts. So the contractor that's doing this work is just doing a bang up job, as our contract managers, Darren and Janae out in the field. Next one is next couple is the St. Patel neighborhood construction. This has been a very challenging project for us this year for a number of reasons, but it's nearing completion. For the season, all planned utility installations are complete. Sidewalks and paving is planned to be completed by the end of October, which we all know is Monday. Concrete work is nearly complete and the final paving will start tomorrow. All homes are back on full water connection. So again, special thanks to our project managers, Janae. I know I spent a lot of time knocking on doors and letting people know where the project is. And for the most part, the people in the neighborhood have been very patient. The next picture is the truck fit. We talked about it last time. It's complete with the exception of some wood fiber that needs to go for the base. And then we will remove the fence when that occurs. We're having some supply chain issues for the wood fiber. So it's hopefully going to be completed later this week and those fences removed. I think that's all I had for pictures. Did I have another one? Oh yeah, those are brand new signs. They're invisible. So you need special glasses to look at them. But those are the wayfinding signs, and they're going up in various areas of the city. Some of them have come down because they've had some errors, but I think they look really sharp, and we'll have this year's finished off here very quickly. A couple other things of note, utilities. If you didn't know, we hire scuba divers to go into our reservoirs to inspect them. And so that inspection has been complete. And they do some cleaning as well. So around the main pump house reservoir. So that's kind of that'd be an interesting job. Although I don't know, I think I'd like it. Like you're in this.
The divers find Tessier's golf balls probably.
Probably, yeah.
Nowhere near the golf course. They're probably in the reservoirs.
Yeah, right. You may have noticed the large crane that was out this week at Ken Nickel, and that was to replace a rooftop HVAC unit. So that's done, and we're moving on RFPs for the RCMP fire systems upgrades, and a number of other things. Equipment has been ordered, and engineering is looking at crosswalk enhancements in a number of areas. So that's all I have for operational items and update. Thank you.
Thanks, CEO Schwartz. Any questions for CEO Schwartz? Councillor Miller, Ashley?
Sure. I just have one question, and it was brought to me by a resident, and then I started driving around and seeing it. what are those black? Is that for new signage that is going on all the parks and everything? There's like black stands, because someone was like, why would they put a gate here without a fence? And I was like, I don't think that's a gate. Oh, okay. Though, oh, this one, this is the one, yes. Okay, so all of the parks are having this
We'll have all the park signage done before this fall. is complete.
before the
So
fall. Okay, so I can
before the
tell
end
them.
of fall.
Okay,
Hopefully in the next
awesome.
week.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions for CEO Schwartz before we move on in our agenda? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Appreciate that. Are there any notices of motion from any members of council this evening? I didn't receive any notice of any. Too funny. Okay, seeing none going forward. Appreciate that. That brings us to the end of our agenda this evening before moving to closed session. Is there anything I missed from the agenda, Ms. Winter? I didn't think I did. Thank you very much. Is there a member of council willing to move a motion to move into closed session? Could it be up on the screen, please? Councillor Tessier, I'll have you speak to it, and when it's up on the screen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that council move into closed session pursuant to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, sections 17 and 19. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion on the motion.